We got a pretty underrated slate. I've said this a few times this year, but it's the lead up to Conference Championship Saturday. There's some consequential games for a number of different reasons this Saturday. So let's go across the country right quick. North Carolina is playing at Miami Saturday. It's a mid-afternoon game. It's 3:30 Eastern Time on ABC. The Canes are a 3-point favorite here. And some of you have noticed how anonymous Miami feels. You know they're a top 10 team. If I were to say top 10 Miami, that would be a factual statement. They are number 10 in the college football playoff rankings. The reason they're anonymous is because they don't really have much of a shot at the college football playoff. They don't have any shot. They are not going to go to the conference championship game. And they don't really have a signature win. And they got the national stage game against Clemson. They got blown out. And so it's just kind of been off a lot of people's radar. This could be a really good game, though. These are two really good teams. Not great, but really good. And the Miami defense, if the last time you saw North Carolina was against Notre Dame, the Miami defense could very well have the ability to do to North Carolina's offense what Notre Dame did. Made them very one-dimensional. It was Sam Howell's game. They couldn't run the ball for anything all afternoon or all evening, and it was on Sam Howell's shoulders. Couldn't get it done. Notre Dame's a really good team. That's nothing to shake a stick at, but probably a little bit better pass rush here with Miami too. So you can make them one-dimensional. It's been done this year. It could be done again. It's a weird game, though, because our model really likes North Carolina. It's got the Heels winning the game outright by 1 point. And I think the balance offensively with Miami, coupled with the pass rush ability and the ability to disrupt that offense and potentially still make them one-dimensional, I don't think North Carolina will have a ton of success running the ball. I just think Miami's the better team. And I think that this really is their conference title game. I mean, they're not going to one, obviously. I think Miami's going to win. I actually think they'll win and they'll cover the 3. So you give me the Canes there. Auburn, we just talked about. They're 6.5-point favorite at Mississippi State. It's a nighttime game, 7:30 Eastern Time on SEC Network. It's much bigger than it appears for a couple of reasons. Number one, now we don't know this, but always operate under the assumption that Gus Malzahn's job's on the line until you've been told otherwise. So that's in play. But also, I think the metered market of College Station, Texas, will have a vested interest in this game. A&M needs Auburn to look as good as they possibly can because A&M needs to bolster their resume as good as they possibly can. They just beat Auburn. It would very much help the Aggies' cause if Auburn were to end the season on a high note. This is a Malzahn moment. If you followed Auburn, you know what I'm talking about. This is nothing new for him, okay? Feeling the heat, having his job on the line, that's old hat for him. And it's also when he tends to rise up the most. And his teams, I'll give him a ton of credit. He is able to get his teams to save his job for him more effectively than any coach I've ever seen in my lifetime. And that's what we may be on tap for this Saturday. Now, here's the problem. The problem is Mississippi State is not impressive record-wise, but they got the number 3 rushing defense in the conference. So this is not one of those Tank Bigsby and company run up and down the field all day. They may have some success, moderately, but if you've noticed, since that little roster reduction, Mississippi State's played some pretty inspired football. They are not ready to lay down. This is not a team that's mailed it in against all odds. Phil Collins reference, 1 a week. They have not mailed it in. And if you can't run it consistently on them, guess what we have to have? We have to have Road Bo Nix come through for Gus Malzahn and win him a game. I think he will, but I don't think it'll be pretty. However, in the end, late score maybe, I think Auburn will win, and I do think they'll cover. And then Malzahn will wipe his hands, and he'll put his hands on his hips, and he'll look over at the Auburn Board of Trustees, and he'll say, your move. I'm going to be rich either way. Your move. Georgia is a 13-point favorite at Missouri. It's an early kickoff, noon window Eastern Time on SEC Network. These are important games here. This is an important game for both teams. Georgia, I kind of look at this as 2021 already for them. JT Daniels, in all likelihood, is back, and therefore, I mean, they're already working on their offense for next year. You might as well look at this as an extension of spring for them. And Missouri's just working on their future entirely. I mean, Drinkwitz got there, and then you have the pandemic, and, oh, by the way, you're going to play Florida and Alabama. Have fun with it. Get after it, boys. And so there's a lot to work on. You know, if you're not going to have extended bowl practice, that's kind of your bowl practice period. You just happen to get to play a game in the middle of it. That Georgia game plan against South Carolina is probably a rinse and repeat situation here. The only difference is I don't think Missouri has mailed it in quite to the degree that South Carolina has. You remember that South Carolina game? Georgia just ran the ball, pass, run the ball, pass. And that's probably about the run-to-pass ratio we'll see Saturday. Missouri could be drained. They could be. They were down like 40-26 and ended up somehow winning the game against Arkansas last week. I think it was 48-47. They could be drained. They could be. I think they'll have some fight in them this week, though. This does not, again, unlike South Carolina, this is not a team with nothing to play for. And so they've overcome a lot this year. You know, if you want to paint this as their Super Bowl, you get Georgia at the very end of the year. Georgia over there working on some things. Maybe they rise up. Jordan Davis is probably going to play Saturday for Georgia. And if he does, I saw Jake Rowe say this earlier today, and he's dead on the money. Jordan Davis has probably gone to the NFL after this. He is the interior defensive tackle for Georgia. If he comes back this weekend, you've got a guy, when all the folks around him are opting out, not at Georgia, but in the sport, you got a guy with every reason to opt out who has probably, if he plays Saturday, gone through rehab like a madman to get back on the field this year to play the last however many games Georgia's going to play. If he starts, if he doesn't start, it's not because of lack of effort, but if he does start, if he plays Saturday, a lot of credit to Jordan Davis and the team up there at Georgia. I've got Georgia winning this game. Our model likes Missouri to cover, though. So a little closer game maybe than you expect in these end-of-year type situations with overwhelmingly more talented rosters. Give me Georgia to win, Missouri plus 13. How about Virginia? The 2.5-point underdog, Cavaliers, by the way, at Virginia Tech. Primetime game on ACC Network, so dozens of people will be waiting to watch this one, but I'll be one of them. I don't get it. We have talked about this game all week in our best bets. I'm going to emphatically talk about it at the very end of this show coming up in just a few minutes. Virginia Tech is done, and they've been done for a little while now. We just talked about Justin Fuente. I think he also fits that description. Virginia, conversely, has been playing the best ball they've played all year. And Armstrong, I think you got an edge at quarterback, first off, with Virginia. I think you got a coaching edge with Virginia at quarterback, just team-wise. You know what? I'm kind of trying to nail it down into compartments. Team-wise, if you've watched these two teams, how do you love anything Virginia Tech's done lately? How do you hate anything Virginia's done lately? And so, you know, a lot of times, and I hear this a lot, people will look at this and say, well, those odds makers know something. Well, okay, be scared of them then. Be scared. But I'll tell you right now, this model I have in front of me has hit 60% against the spread this year and historically has done very well. So I'll trust these numbers. These numbers tell me Virginia Tech's winning the game, or Virginia's winning the game outright Saturday. We love them to win outright. So I'll take the 2.5, but just give me Virginia to win the game outright. Coaching edge, quarterback edge, team edge, chemistry edge, mojo edge, a lot of edges there. And home field's not a big deal this year. So give me the Cavaliers. And lastly, Southern Cal's a 2.5-point favorite at UCLA, 7:30 Eastern kickoff on ABC. USC's 4-0. Normally that would mean, hey, getting to the midpoint of the season, Southern Cal, can they remain undefeated? Still got a long way to go. No, they don't. They got one game left. This is it. You start off 4-0, and this is it. UCLA, I'll give them credit too. Chip Kelly, there's probably not a program out there that had more of an excuse to be terrible this year. And yet, UCLA, 3-2. They got a couple of losses to Colorado, undefeated. Oregon, one of the better teams in the Pac-12. So Chip Kelly and the guys out there have done a really good job. They got into their building like 5 minutes before the season started. So they had every reason to be bad, and they've been pretty okay this year. There is a big gap, however. UCLA, defensively, big gap between playing the haves and the have-nots. Because when they've played winning teams this year, that defense, limited sample size, mind you, that defense is giving up 40 points per game. So USC, don't like the running game. Think offensively they can have enough success here. I'm going to take Southern Cal to win, and I will lay the 2.5 with the Trojans. Those are our picks of the week.